Welcome to the fifth video. Within this video, we are going now to start with the programming the actions, which is going to be implemented with the G-frame that we create. So back again to our design. First thing you have to keep in mind that as a quick review, we did the design and we assigned the variable names. And now we are going to program the application by define the actions and program them inside our program. Now, to program the action, the first action will be done, which is loading this application. When the application load by hitting run, when the application run and be available to the user, the first method will be called, is going to be available, of course, we can see it in the source. It's going to be the constructor for the G-frame. You can see here that the name of the class is GFrame, which makes this one is the constructor of your class. And here, the first thing that Netbeans will give it to you, which is initializing the component. And initializing the component, you can see it here also defined and locked from modification, which is initialize the names and everything, which is programming whatever we did in the design. You don't have to change anything about this, so you have to do nothing about this. It's already will be available for you in the whenever you jump to from design to source. Now in here, second point I have to keep in mind, during the design I have some radio buttons. The problem with the radio buttons, when I'm going to add them, they are going to be independent. But they don't have to be act as an independent. They have to be act as a one single group. So whenever I select male, female cannot be selected. When I jump to female, male is not going to be selected. So to do that, in the source, I will call the object or call a class which is called by creating an object which is called group button group. I give it any name and it's equal to new bottom group. It's actually a built-in library. It's similar to the other classes, another available within Java, like scanner. But here, this one is called the button group. Whenever you add this one, you may have to fix the imports. When it's imported, this one library is going to be import for this particular class. After creating this group button, you have to add to the group button the radio button that I have. And the radio button here, you can see that the name of them is male R and female R. This is why I say that pg dot add male R and pg dot add female R. That means that now I group these two buttons to be as one single group. Also, for the male R, I will say dot selected equal to true. So I set the default selection to be for the male part. So in this particular question, after initializing the component, I have a group button. Within this group button, I add the two radio buttons that I have, and I make the default selection to be for the male. Now, other than this, I don't need anything during the load. So now, whenever I hit run, this is exactly what happened. So initializing the component will initialize everything here. Will initialize the value for these, the colors for these, the text available for each one. Everything will be defined by initializing component. And you don't have to worry about this. Whenever you do the design, the Netbeans will take care about programming the background for the initializing component. Whenever you have the group button now, since I group now the buttons, you can see now I can select only one of this part. Whenever I select one of them, the other will be deselected, which is the actual and the purpose behind adding the radio buttons. So now I finished from the first part. The second part is going to be just normally creating the actions for every buttons. So I have here 3 different buttons. The first one is called clear. I'll start with it because it's going to be the easiest one. In the clear, whenever I had to clear, I supposed to clear these parts. I supposed to return this two into their default values, I have to deselect this one and return the selection to male. So to do and to go directly to the clear, just simply you can double click into the clear. It will take you to the action which is related to clear. You can see here, I simply, for name F, I make it as a set text to empty string. Remember that this is an empty string. This is not an empty string. The empty string is not a space. This one is a space. This one is an empty string. So empty string means I have nothing inside the text. Then also the age F, I will make it also as an empty string. GPA F, I will make it as empty string. Also the measure C, I will make it as 0, set selected index to 0, which means I will go to the first selection. Same number C, which is this one, I will make it again to set selected to 0, which means that it's go to the first selection, which is 1. Has a scholar, this one I make it false, which means it's gonna be cleared. And the last one, I will make the male set selected to true, which means I return back to the default selection, which is the male. So to trace this one, if it's working fine or not, it's a good idea to start the program. I will put some names, some age, random GPA, any major. I will choose here number. I make it scholar. Let's say that this is for Jimmy, for example, and female. Now here, whenever I hit clear, these supposed to be empty. This is will return to the default one, which is computer science. This one will return to 1. This one will be cleared, and this one will return to male. This is what I supposed to get when I had to clear. So now I will try it. I hit clear. You can see that these are empty now. This is returned to the first selection. This is deselected, and this is returned to the default selection. Now the second point is gonna be, the second action is gonna be about add. In add, I supposed to get these values, all these values, and from these values I'm gonna print into the list whatever I had. Also, I will increment the number of the student by 1. So to see this application, or to jump or to create this method which is related to the add, whenever I hit double click, it will take me to the method which is related to it, which is add b action performed. So let's take one by one. When I have, first of all, I will start to get the values which I need. So it's a good idea to add for you here to remember. This is here, get the values from the items. So first of all, I will get the first value, which is gonna be for me is gonna be the string name is equal to name f dot get text. So from name f, which is this one, I have to get the text and save it inside string name. The same scenario with the age. The age is supposed to be integer. So name age f will get an integer here. I supposed to get it and place it here. But before I assign it directly to the integer, I have to convert it first into an integer, because this method will return for me only string. So if I try to remove this part and try to do it like what I do in the first part, it will give me an error, and the error because incompatible type, the string cannot be converted into integer. So to convert to an integer, I will use the integer.parseInt to convert that. So as a summary, it will take the value from here as age.getText, convert it into an integer, and save it inside age. The same scenario when I have GPA. In the GPA, I will get the value from here, but this GPA is supposed to be double, so once I get it from here, I have to convert it to a double by using double.parseDouble. Then I will save it inside GPA, which is a double, of course. Now we come to the major C. In the getText, you can see that getText is here is the one which is used for whenever we use for the text fields to get the value from it. Whatever it is, string, double, integer, we have to get it by using get text. Then after getting the text, we can convert it to whatever we like. Now the second one we have here, we have the major C. Major C, I'm gonna expect to have here what? I'm gonna expect to have a string. This string, I'm gonna take it and save it within major string, right? So now to get the value from this one, I'm not gonna use get text since this one is gonna be as a drop box or combo box for me. To get that, I will have something called the get selected items. With get selected item, that means I'm gonna get the selected item here from major C. I will get what item that I selected, but before I jump and save it to the major, I have to convert it to a string. Why? Because this particular method is returning for me an object. If I try to remove toString, it will give me an error, and if I check the error, it will tell me again incompatible types. The object cannot be converted to a string. So I have to convert manually this one to a string by saying dot toString. Okay. Now the same scenario when I come to this one, but this one is more complicated because again I have to use get selected item from sem num c. Get selected item. I select which item. This one will return for me an object. I have to convert it to a string. But unfortunately, I don't need it as a string, I need it as an integer. So this is why, after converting this one into a string, I convert it back again to an integer. So now the sem num, it will be as an integer. Now, we come now, after finishing this 5, we come now to the reading value from this one. So I have the boolean has a scalar. This is supposed to be as a boolean because the value is either true or false. This is going to be easy, so I will say that has a scalar c.is selected. This method is returning for me true or false. I will assign it directly to the boolean which I have. Now, for the gender, I have either male or female. So to differentiate between them, I assign the value default value which is male. Then I will say that if the male female R is selected, then the gender will be female. Otherwise, it will remain as male. So this one in the if statement, it's a good idea. I use again is selected, which is I use it here to give me an indication about true or false. So you can see that this is male female R, which is this option. If this one is selected, so that means the gender is not male anymore, it's going to be female. Now, I finished from assigning all the values. Once I assigning all the values, now I'm ready for the second part, which is displaying the values here. Now, before displaying the value, first of all, I need the details here. I need to define and display the number of the students, which is updated here. Now, the number of the students, so here it's going to be the display area. Okay. In the display, first of all, you can see that the number of the student is incremented by 0, but we didn't discuss anything about the number of the student. Number of the student, you can, if you go down, whenever I create the variables are created, I create a static variable called number of the student and I assign 0 to it. So whenever this one, the initial value, whenever this program will be loaded, the number of the student will be 0. Then during the program, I can change from any other method to update the number of the students. But originally, it's 0. So now if I go back, number of the student is ++ here, which means once I get all of these, now I'm ready to increment the number of the student by 1. After that, I will say that the number of the student F, which is this part right here, number of the student F, I will set the text to the number of the student which I have. Now, why I have to put an empty string here? Because if I remove it, it's gonna give me an error, and the source of the error again because the type are incompatible and because I cannot convert an integer into a string. To convert this particular integer, which is this one, into a string, I have to put an empty string plus this is easily convert the number as an integer to a string. After that, I have in the student list A, you can see it here, I say .append, I append the values into it. Now, why I didn't say set text like what I have here? The difference between append and set text is going to be removing whatever I have before and assign the new values. And this is actually makes sense when I'm going to use it for number of the student. So whenever I'm going to select, for example, a new student, it's going to be update, and the old one will be removed and updated to a new one. So if the number of the student is 2 and I add a new student, it will update, so it will remove 2 and replace it with a 3. While in the append, when I'm adding 2 students and I say that I need to add a new student to it, when I press add, that means the 2 students will be remain there, but a new student will be added to the list. So this is exactly how the append will be work. And in append, you can see that I creating here just simply a text, a string, which is how it's gonna be looks like, and it's similar, very easily can represent with a new line and the plus to differentiate and to assign the text which I need. So now the best idea to understand also this is gonna be to understand how it works. But before we leave, I would like to summarize about the set text and append. That append is usually will be used with the text area, which is going to be used to add to a new line, to add to a previous text that we have, while the set text will be used to remove the old text and update it to with a new one. Now, if I go to run this program again to see how are these works. So if I put, for example, Ahmed, his age is 20, his GPA is 3.4. Ahmed is a computer engineering. He is in 3rd semester. He has a scholarship. I will leave mail as it is, and now I will say add. You can see that whenever I say add, the number of the student now is incremented by 1, and I have the full details for the students. Okay, now if I hit clear again and I would like to add another student, for example Jimmy, and the age of Jimmy is 21, her GPA is 3.1, she is a computer scientist and she is in the 2nd semester, it does not have any scholarship, a female, and when I hit add, now the number of the student is incremented, and you can see with the append I add to it. If instead of append I use the set text, you can see that only Jimmy will be available because it will be replacing the previous one. So by this, so far we finished about clear and the add. Second step, we are going to try to do the load from file and save to file. Now, to load from a file, I will double click to the load from file. I have to place my work, since I'm going to deal with the files, I have to place my work within a try and catch, because maybe the file does not exist, maybe there is corruption while it's trying to access the directory, so it's a good idea to place it within try and catch to handle the file not found exception. And this is actually a good idea because it will give me an indication if the file exists or does not exist. Now, first of all, I will create our read from, if I go back to this is the design, this part is called load file F. So from load file F, I will get the text which is available in here, which is the file name, and I will assign it to in file. Now I will create a scanner with an input with a new reader. I will say that equal to the in file which I created. So the file that I input here, the name of the file that I'm gonna enter here is gonna be used for the scanner. Now within the while loop, I will use the input which is the scanner name. I will use this input to has next. Why I need this? Because I don't know exactly how many lines are there inside the file. So with has next, it will keep reading till the whole file will be read. Now then I will create a string which calls line, which is help me to read line by line. Every line it will indicate a separate student. So I read line by line. Once I read the line, I will append that directly to the student list A, which is this one. So once I read the line, I will add it to here, and also I will increment the number of the student by 2. Of course, by incrementing the number of the student by 2, that does not mean I increment this field. I increment the static variable which I indicate. To update this field, after the while is finished, I will update that by using the set text set new number of the student f dot set text to the number of the student with the empty string, as we explained earlier, because we need to change this one from this value to a string. When I'm doing this, so I'm reading all the lines, and once it's finished, I will jump and display here for the users, and all the lines will be added here line by line. Now, in case that the file is corrupted, or I cannot reach to the file, or I forget to create the file, this text will be displayed for me, which is cannot load from a file. Okay, now again, the best practice is to run this, but before doing that, it's a good idea to prepare the file. I already prepared a file for you, which is file number 1. I can find it here, file number 1. But to create a new file, you have to go to the original directory here within the cup, right click, go to new, empty file. If you cannot find it, you can go to other. You can go to other here also, and you can find here the empty file. But luckily now I can simply select from file, empty file. Give it any name, give it any values. For me, for example, I give it the values, I name it file 1. Okay, and within this file 1, I create this line. So I create some details for Sami, Rami, Ahmed. I give them the details and everything. Now, once I read this line, every line will be read, added to this area, which is the student list. And for every line, I'm going to update the number of the student by 1. Now, let's try to do that. So when I hit run, when I say load file, you can see that tell me that you cannot load a file because I didn't specify the correct file. So if I say file 1 and I say load from file, you can see that it's read that there is a 3 students and from this particular file. If by mistake I assign to a different file, it will tell me here you cannot load from file. Okay, now a good thing about this, I can load from different files at the same time, and every time when I load from a different file, it's going to be uploaded to the list. And also I can still add manually by assigning name again, like Jimmy, the 21, GPA 3, 0, the information security, for scholarship female, and it's added and it's okay. So I can now integrate between both addings and loading from file in the same application, and it's worked perfectly with updating the number of the student and with the adding to the list. Now, the last button that we have is saving to a file. The saving to a file, we need to get whatever inside this list to be saved inside the file which we are going to indicate their names in here. So now, to do that, I will go back to design. We have here save file. So the file name which I'm going to enter here, I'm going to read whatever inside this one, and I'm going to save it within the file. Now, save to file, I will double click to it. You can see here, I need the, again, since I'm going to deal with the files, I'm going to place it within try and catch to handle the find not found exception. So the first thing that I'm going to do, the string out file, is going to read whatever inside this by using the get text. So the save file f, as you can see here, save file f dot get text, I'm going to get the text from here, and I'm going to place it within this string. Then this string, I'm going to use it for the file name with the print writer. So now the output will be a pointer for the out file. Now, after that, I'm going to get whatever text inside this one by saying string text is equal to std list a dot get text. So I'm going to get whatever inside this list and save it inside the string text. Now, simply, I'm going to print whatever inside the text as a string, I'm gonna add it to the output by using print. So output.print.text, output.print text. This one will print whatever text saved in here inside this string, and it's gonna be printed inside the file, which is pointed by output. After that, I have not to forget to close the output to close the whole file. Then I have to place in the catch, cannot save to a file. So in case there is something happen, it's gonna be a catch will be thrown. Again, a good example or a good test is gonna be by running the program. I'm gonna load the from file 1 some student. Okay. I'm gonna add some other student. With a GPA and computer engineering, semester number 4, a scholarship female, and then I will say add. So now I have a 4 student. Now for these students, I'm gonna simply try to have the list. I'm agree with it. This is all what I have, so I would like to save to a file. Simply now I can say that I would like it to have it to output file number 1. When I hit save to file and I go to my file areas, I have output file 1. I know I didn't create this, so the Netbeans will create it for you automatically. The Java will create it for you automatically. So when I hit the run, you can see that all the lines which I added, the 4 student, is printed here into my file. So this is about my application and fully application. Later on, maybe we can extend this one. So instead of using the variables directly, we can create some class which can help us to initiate the values. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this one will help you.